Across Africa, the idea of success is shifting. The old playbook said work harder, add another hustle, sleep later. But many young people are realizing that endless grinding without direction leads to burnout and not stability. Now, at the same time, global job markets are changing fast. Tech roles are evolving. Remote work is expanding, but not evenly. Some skills are gaining value while others are becoming oversaturated. And for African youth, these global trends collide with local realities like infrastructure gaps, unstable income, and limited social safety nets. So as the year begins, the real challenge is balance. How do young Africans pursue growth without sacrificing well-being? How do they choose work that sustains them and not just drains them? It's not about to be a monologue, so I have amazing guests joining me to talk about this very important discourse. I have joining us Afolayone Maya Oluwatobi, Chief Technology Officer, Mined Global Technologies Limited, joining from Oyo State. Thank you, Afolayan, for joining us. All right, we also have joining us Emmanuel Afolabi, a journalist and political analyst located in Ogun State as well. Thank you, Emmanuel Afolabi, for joining us. Also, we have Mpiriwe Mark, media personality, joining from Kampala in Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And definitely it's going to be an insightful conversation. So very quickly, let's start with Afolayan. Looking back at 2025, what did 2025 teach African youth about work, about money, and about exhaustion?
Okay. All right. To start with, looking back at 2025, 2025 was a wide ride for African youths, revealing harsh realities about hustle culture, income pressure, and exhaustion. And when I was on this, I came across some key realities which it's important to be driven at. And, hustle culture is taking a toll. What I mean by that is that there is a constant pressure to work hard, and to stay constantly productive and to grind non-stop. We call it steady grinding. You have to just also in hours, almost 24 hours, 24/7, being active of a thing. This kind of creates a certain burnout, anxiety, depression, and feeling like you are never doing enough. In a situation whereby you go out early in the morning, come back late at night, and you are exhausted, and at the end of everything, you feel like, was it even worth it? And am I actually doing anything? Now, again, looking at the income pressure, another reality on income pressure, many young people are struggling to make ends meet. Yeah, it's actually right, and it's correct that most of we young people are actually struggling to make ends meet, and with the cost of living rising, why the wages remain stagnant. In a situation whereby a person is on a fixed salary, while the cost of living is increasing and the salary refuses to increase, there will definitely be an income pressure in that sense. Then another is that there is an exhaustion in growing concern. What I mean by that is this: when there's this reality that to grow, there will definitely be pressure. There will definitely be a force. There is always a force behind a steady growth. I'm a physicist, and by pressure we mean force over area. Now, when you're applying higher force, intense force on a lower jurisdiction, like a smaller area, there tends to be higher pressure. Now, the pressure to constantly perform is affecting mental health, relationship, and overall well-being. Though growth is actually paramount in any parastatal, in any sector, growth is inevitable. So it's quite important, but the pressure is quite high. Now, even at that, young people are driving change in education, innovation, activism, and governance. We have certain people that are influencing this cycle that I mentioned earlier, talking about Flutterwave, for example, is owned by a Nigerian, and what it does majorly is to improve digital payment across Africa. We have Andela, which is empowering African software developers. But it's quite important to reevaluate priorities and seek a better work-life balance. To that, I have certain recommendations, yes, to regulate work-life balance. And my recommendations are as follows. Setting boundaries could actually help Africans manage this work-life pressure, in the sense that if you are specified a certain number of hours as your work hour, and you have your own personal timing, you will be able to think straight, ruminate, and check out things that matter to you. Not like you have the 24/7 work schedule, like no time to rest or anything. Your mental stability comes in that kind of scenarios.
All right,
another recommendation from my hand is that practicing self-care.
Right.
Self-care is quite an important factor. If you look at most of us young people, we are more of like, we want to make it, we want to do something, we just want to be active almost 24/7.
Right.
Most times we ignore our personal self-being.
Okay,
yesterday was on the first, I was in a conference.
I'm so sorry to interrupt
Mind
you.
Lab. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We will come back to that conversation, but I want us to also talk a lot about the hustle culture for a bit. And let me just direct the next question at Emmanuel. Emmanuel, why do you think that the hustle culture feels unavoidable for so many young people, especially in this previous year in 2025? We saw more people, with side gigs. In fact, there was a recent trend about people having 6 jobs, and people will start posting different things that they do, the 9-to-5, interior decor, and things like that. So why do you think that the hustle culture feels unavoidable for young people these days?
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, you can't tell a youth not to have different types of jobs if the country have a good stability. For example, a graduate, someone who went to school the first class, number one, the person did not get a good job. Now tell me, that kind of person wants to move to individual or different kind of business. For example, now, maybe the person is into painting. Oh, I'm a painter. The person knows how to sell clothes. I can sell clothes. So the reason why people are moving, or most people are the youth, did a lot of job or venture into a lot of businesses, most importantly last year, is because of the country. The economy in the country is not palatable. The economy of the country is not stable. Imagine a graduate, after graduating, probably you get an employment in a school. Someone that went to university, went to serve, in fact, with master's degree, and they'll be using 70,000 naira to entertain the person. Oh, what we can offer you is 70,000 naira. These are things, or these are reasons why you see different people, they will go into different type of business. Now, in time of even media, and you see a lot of people post on their status on WhatsApp, oh, I sell clothes, I sell perfume, I sell bags, I sell shoes. It is because the economy of the country is not stable. And I believe if the economy of the country is stable, people won't dive into other business. One other business that people, should I call it a business? One other thing that people really ventured into in the year 2025 is bets. Or most youths are addicted to betting, and that is what is killing them. So these are things that are affecting youths. That's why most of them are moving into 3, 4, 5 businesses. And like I said earlier, if the country is stable, if the economic system of government is stable, oh my God, why would people move to different types of jobs? So to just conclude my point here, once the economy of the nation is stable, people will begin to do 4 to 5 jobs like that. So this is my take about that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that, Emmanuel. Let me quickly go now to Mark. We've entered into 2026, and I'm sure the youth are eager to see what sectors and skills appear worth investing in. So, Mark, if you have an idea regarding which jobs sectors or which skills are genuinely worth investing in, because some people would even tell you that some jobs are going extinct, not in the sense that people don't need it anymore, but with the invention of AI, there's only so much one can do, especially with technology that AI cannot do. So what sectors are still worth it till date?
Thank you. I think with the invention of, when you look at, when we talk about AI and how that is going to affect how people are going to approach that in terms of, is it going to take jobs for people? Is it going to enable, people not have a sustainable income to be able to live because of the rising cost of living? I think we also need to look at the fact that in addition to what are coming into play, how are we equipping people coming into the job market? And when you're already in the job market, how are we equipping the young people to keep, advancing and moving with the times? Because technology keeps advancing, and at the moment it's advancing at a very fast pace, and people have to find a way of adapting and finding a way of advancing themselves. So even if you're in a job, you're not comfortable. We've had conversations about, like, for example, telemedicine, and you have doctors scared that probably the advancements in AI will take up their jobs. But AI is there to help you. It's there to provide information for you, to sieve through data fast for you, very quickly, for you to be able to make a decision at the end of the day. So it can't operate in isolation with your skill as a health worker. But if you have knowledge of how it works and you combine that with your skills as a health worker, you're able to be successful at that. But also looking at the high cost of how many side gigs people have to do every time to be able to have a sustainable living, or be able to afford their daily meals or livelihood. It's quite a challenge. We talked about inflation at the start of the show, how that is also coming into play. But I think we look at the economies also, we have a little bit of challenges, and sometimes political instabilities or political factors tend to come into play when we are looking at economic development or economic sustainability, because sometimes in certain areas of Africa, the political state is not the best. We are having challenges, as everyone knows on the panel, we've always talked about. But one of the issues that I think we can try and bring up, for example, when I was looking at the prediction for 2026, looking at people that the jobs that will be created, for example, within the digital space, that which involves content creators. I've had fellow panelists talk about that. That is, at the moment, for example, the digital delivered services grew by 8% from 2022 to 2025. And that's double the global rate, and reaching nearly about 33 billion for, and as far as the exports that are projected to increase for the digitally delivered services, that is projected to increase to around 74 billion between 2023 and 2040. So when you look at, for example, some countries in Africa, you look at Ghana. Ghana leads the sector in delivering digital deliverable goods with about $6.2 billion in digital exports, and that's about 19% of the regional exports. That is the digital delivered services. And when you look at the e-commerce, which is also providing a platform that fosters inclusion, 3 out of 4 African businesses trading exclusively online are women-owned, which is also going to be a factor, I think, when we're discussing these issues, that the growing population of women also having that involved and participating in the economic development of the continent, that will also have an effect. That's why I had to bring in the numbers of how many of the African businesses are trading exclusively online that are women-owned, because that fosters inclusion and creates a little bit more of a boost to the development. So with having the hustle economy and having a lot of young people doing gigs, and have balancing for content creation. Someone talked about catering, someone talked about selling clothes online in order to be able to sustain. I think at the moment it's where we are at, but I think we can better prepare moving forward and see how to realize the new reality, which is we have challenges of encouraging investment that is a bit, risk averse. Because of our political sustainability or stability. But at the moment, I think I'm with the panelists in the sense that we need to look at, even when you're doing this hustle, because we need to look at the numbers. If you're doing many hustles, has that improved the livelihood of people in Africa? this, but when you do all these jobs, I don't have the numbers for that yet, but I would like to see what other people would think of that. But because if we might do many gigs and have many jobs, but what is the output at the end of the day? Is it improving our livelihood, or we are just living by,
Okay. Mark, I'm so sorry for interrupting you. I want us to take a look at the trends. It's not just enough to have jobs or side gigs, and I'm going to direct this question at Afolayan. Right, so you have done a good job at letting us see, what the trends are, and unfortunately, jobs these days are like trading. So, Afolayan, which roles or trades or trends rather are being overhyped and may not actually deliver long-term value at the end of the day?
Okay. All right. Thank you. There are certain kind of jobs that have been overhyped. When I was doing my research, I came across the coal of the thing, which will actually drop in demand by 2.3% the coming year. So that specifically is overhyped. And when it comes to this physical sales of goods, now the world is going global, like it's going digital. I mean, so once any kind of business that doesn't have an online presence, definitely is going to be crumbling soon in the coming year. In this year, 2026. So any kind of business that has no online presence is heading to crumble in the year 2026. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Afolayan. Let me come now to Emmanuel. And let's not forget that the focus here is the young people, right? And beyond just the pay, there is also the potential for growth and opportunities. So, Emmanuel, how should young people evaluate opportunities beyond the pay? I know it's hard to do because, this day and time, people just want to feed. They just want to be able to afford the basic amenities and, want to leave a little. But then beyond the pay, how do people evaluate what opportunities work best, what has a long-term value or impact on them, and not just, the fire brigade approach?
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, for those watching, one thing I want everyone to know that, like I did tell people, everything is not all about money at first. Look at the long term, how it's going to benefit you. Like, for example, now you got an offer, a job offer. Okay, let's just assume you want to get 50,000 naira, and look at the future of the job. Look at what is going to happen. Okay, is this thing going to benefit me? Is there any opportunity or chance that in the next coming years I can get a connection from it? Now, but it's quite unfortunate, like you said the other time, that and which is true. Most youths, if we are not being paid well, we want to look for better options. But there's something I want to charge us with this afternoon, that if we get any opportunity, any offer, let us look beyond the pay. Let us look beyond the payments, but let us look at the future of the job. Okay, this job or this opportunity, does it worth it? Is this something that is going to influence? Is this something that's going to up my career? There are some job opportunities, there are some offers that, fine, the pay might not be good, but it's going to influence one positively. At times, you might even get connections from those jobs, from those offers. So my charge is just, we should look beyond the pay as we commence 2026. It's going to be a better year, but let us look beyond the pay. Let us look at the future and look at the opportunities that is going to be at the end of the job. And like someone said, it is not all about money. Look the future of the offer or of the job you are getting into. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Very spot on. Mark, in a tough economy like this one, Nigeria, Africa at large, is it realistic to prioritize purpose over income? Because like I said, it's easier to say we're looking beyond the money, but at the end of the day, is it realistic? Looking at how these days, even budgeting doesn't cut it. You budget and budget, you try to slim fit your budget to accommodate your income, but it just doesn't work. So at what point do we now begin to prioritize purpose? Is it realistic?
Yeah, I think it is like the previous panelist said. I think it's important to look at purpose and look at the reason why you're doing something, and looking at exponential growth rather than looking for instant gratification. When I start this, it has to work out immediately. It should be something that we should know that progress with business takes time, or with anything that you're working on, in terms of even when you look at the side hustles that people have to create for themselves. It takes time. Some side hustles require reputation that doesn't come over 2 days or 3 days. It takes a period of time. Recommendations from people saying, from people that have experienced working with you, being able to recommend you to other people. So it takes time. It's a slow growth, but because of how technology has become, and when you look at social media, for example, which is one of the biggest factors when you look at the youth and how this microwave thinking comes into play, is because everyone thinks it's an instant success. If I start a business, it's supposed to be successful immediately. But sometimes you might join a business because you saw that my friend Peter started a clothes selling business, and I start selling the clothes because I think he got money, so I'm also going to sell clothes and get money. But that might not be, you might not have the skills to sell, but you're trying to set it up because you saw him tell you on social media it worked for him, and then you think that it will work the same way for you. It has to be something that you're passionate about and you're willing to wait and see grow. And when you talked about Nigeria, for example, when you look at Nigeria, I think the population is currently at around 226 million on average, but then the prediction is around 2050 it's going to be around 400 million. So I've had the numbers are not, because it was be the world's third most populous country in a few decades when you look at that. But when you look into the young people, the number will be bigger, and that means a lot of job opportunities need to be created to be able to take that number in, to be able to utilize the demographic dividend that is provided by that outburst. And now that would be a challenge, and that's why we need to. I know, with technology, people think, if I start technology today, if I start something to do with maybe content creation, I should be successful by the end of the year. Yeah, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So purpose has to be in that, the reason why you're starting something, and you're going to wait for it to grow and see it succeed. And it takes time, and it takes reputation, and it takes consistency. And it takes a little bit more of adjusting, being adaptable to advancements in technology, and being able to utilize that and take advantage of it, and rather than looking at it as a negative. So it's a challenge to sell that idea at the moment when someone is having a burden of looking at paying for the next bill that is right there waiting. But in reality, it's that the message we have to put across is that growth takes time. Adaptation of technology takes time, and you have to have something that you really believe in, and you have to have a purpose-driven mission to be able to see through, and that's what will be able to take you through.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mark. It's been a very insightful conversation, but we're nowhere near done. This is Fafanua Afrika, and I have these gentlemen here doing justice to the conversation. We will be going on a short break very soon, but just to give you a heads up, we have a lot more to talk about, because beyond the jobs, beyond the side gigs, there's still the burnouts that we're not considering. A lot of young people want to make the money, they want to secure the bags, but at the detriment of their health. These are the things that we'll be considering. It's Fafanua Afrika. We're talking about the youths, the challenges, the opportunities, and preferring profound solutions to these challenges that they face. I'm Blessings Mosugu, and we are on to the next round right after the break. You're still live with us on Fafanua Afrika. This is the show where we spotlight the youth, their opportunities, their challenges, and the youth across Africa in general. And we are talking about something very pivotal, which is the job and side gig economy. Now, it's very important to have a job, and also twice as important to have a side gig, but there's some detriment, and of course there's some perks, and that is a conversation we're having today. We have amazing gentlemen who have been doing justice to the conversation. And we've talked at length about, the jobs that are in vogue, the jobs that seemingly are not worth it anymore. It's not like if the pay is good, you don't have to take it. But at the end of the day, what matters the most is the mental health and the physical strength of these young people. And that's why we're having this conversation. So if you are a youth, this is a time to tune in and, of course, join us for the next round of the conversation, because like I said, we're nowhere near done. We still have our amazing guests. And before the break, we're talking about burnout. And I don't think that we have exhausted that conversation, because it's very important that we do talk about it. So let me circle back to Afolayan. What does high functioning burnout look like? Why is it often ignored, especially by young people? I, for one, I would say that I'm complicit in this, because sometimes, you want to postpone the rest and just do as much work as you can, but it's very, very detrimental to your health. So why do you think that the young people ignore burnout?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Why often the young people ignore burnout basically is, we are in the people of our age, and, we are dreamers, and we want to achieve, we want to speedily achieve stuffs in a short while, which is actually detrimental to our health and our well-being. So the major reason why we avoid burnout is because we oftentimes set goals that are, on a faster pace that is meant to be. I want to quote one of my power mentors' words. He often said, we should not finish a year course in 1 month. Yeah, that's Jack Ma. He often said that. I said, when you are setting a goal, you understand? Like my previous speaker said, when you want to achieve a goal, it takes time. If you are starting up a business, just forget about the early starts. Maybe you think there will be a return as early as the first year. Most of us young people, we just super believe some stuff which are not in the reality. So oftentimes we set plans that are actually not feasible, unrealistic plan. So when we start chasing it, chasing the bags, the stress and the relentlessness giving a bad impact on our well-being. So the reason why we ignore them, basically, like I've said, is we have a goal that actually is not realistic. We oftentimes avoid the reality that, what we grow takes time. Any business that we thrive takes time. You don't start the business and instantly feel, okay, there will be a result. Most people that are thriving now on medias or in business, I follow Jack Ma so much, and I learned a lot from his fallback when he was about starting the business. It was the point that he gathered up a certain number of people, and most of them were like, okay, they were rejecting, that they were tired of the stuff, quitting, and in that kind of scenario, he is a hard-acting person. He's determined, and he knows that he has to face it through. So even it took him a very long while for him to escape through, and at the end, he was able to thrive with consistency and setting a goal, a realistic goal. So the reason why most of us, young people, we ignore process. You understand? We are trying to find a shortcut. We just want to arrive at the destination, even in an unrealistic time. So, and it ends up giving a feedback of burnout, but we keep ignoring it. We keep overusing ourselves. Times where we are meant to rest, we didn't even bother to rest, because we want to achieve in a faster pace, which in an actual way takes time to achieve the goals. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Afolayan. When we come back, we would go to Emmanuel and have a very important conversation as well regarding how businesses and companies can handle their staff and side gigs, because I think that we don't want to talk about this, and I know that we're no HR specialists, but this is a reality that we're beginning to face, and every company has to deal with it because people are no longer satisfied with just one job. So when we come back from the break, we'll have that conversation, and the next question goes to Emmanuel. Stay with us. All right, right, you're still live with us on Fafanua Afrika, and just cutting to the chase, we're talking about jobs and side hustles and, of course, the risk of burnout for the young Nigerians and young Africans at large. And I have three gentlemen who have been doing justice to this conversation: Afolayan Emmanuel, and of course, Mark, joining from Uganda. I did say earlier before we went on the break that we were going to talk about the reality that we can no longer avoid, and that is companies having to deal with their staff juggling side hustles with, the main jobs. So, Emmanuel, I mean, side hustles have become the norm, and in 2026, we just might be seeing more of that. So, how do you think that companies, and I know that you're no HR specialist, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but how do you think that companies can adjust to this reality? Because at the end of the day, you also want to, as a company, you want to be empathetic and you want to be in tune with reality. At the end of the day, maybe what the staff are earning is no longer enough, to take home. So how do you think companies can adjust to this new reality?
Thank you very much. I think for every good organization, every good company, one thing must be certain is the well-being and the good welfareism of your workers. How are they being treated? How are these workers being treated in every organization? Now, one of those reasons why a lot of people get to do side hustles is because of they don't have enough income. And you can't tell a family man that is earning below what he's even spending in a month not to have side hustle. So these answers are just directed to every organization, companies out there, that as we are in 2026, as we come in 2026 now, the welfareism of their workers, their staffers, should be their priority. If it's possible, call a general meeting of workers together. How do you think we can improve in your salary? It is a new year, it should be a new system. If possible, a new pay, increase in salary. So I'm probably with that. Fine, there's going to be a reduction of side hustle. That does not mean there's still a lot of people are not going to do side hustle. But at least to a bit, it's going to reduce the side hustle. But the company, every CEO, every managing director of every organization, companies, to ensure that the welfareism and the welfare of their workers and staffers is their priority, if truly they don't want to lose their staff. Thank you.
Very spot on. Thank you so much for that, Emmanuel. Now, let me come to Mark. How do you think young people know when a side hustle is no longer serving them? Or do you think they even know, or they're just carried away by the money they're making from it?
Yeah, I look at, for example, the reason why, even in the first place, why the side hustles are becoming that rampant. I think post-COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of companies learned how to sometimes operate at minimal, understaffing and being able to get things done. And then when they came out of that period, some of them didn't go back to adjusting and knowing that it was the time when there was short staffing and all these other factors. They looked at it as, it was able to work during that time, so some went on and rolled on and didn't restaff or go back to the original staffing that they had. So that created a lot of burnout and also underproductivity. Sometimes we think that people are making a lot by working longer, but sometimes the productivity doesn't justify the longer hours at the end of the day. So now someone is spread thin because they are at work doing more than they should be doing. On top of that, they have to do another side hustle, which they won't deliver 100% because they're already burnt out from the main job. So now they're not delivering at the workplace, and they're not delivering either well at the side hustle. But then at the end of the day, the bills don't wait for any of that. So you have to pay your bills. You have to be able to sustain your life, sustain your family if you are taking care of that too. And so that process is something that we need to address more, because post COVID-19, a lot of companies didn't bring people back. they realize that they could be able to operate, which is usually the goal, is that if there's a way they can reduce on how many people work, reduce the cost of production, that's, good business for them. But at the end of the day, you're doing it at the expense of the people that are supposed to be helping your company or work with you. So that creates burnout, that creates a lot of side hustles, that creates people looking for a quick way of how they can be able to make a living. And that creates, compromised, work that is produced, because everybody is trying to make sure that they make ends meet, and they are on a tight schedule, on a tight budget, and the economy is not waiting for anybody. The inflation is not waiting for any of us. It keeps increasing. And so I think mostly for the young people, some of them, that they're coming up on the back of that, especially those that are joining the workforce at the moment. They can get jobs because the companies have got to realize that they can operate at a much lesser and a much less staffed operation. And then you have them trying to figure out side hustles, which they want to have instant success, which is quite hard. It's hard. There are few people that get to have that. So everybody doesn't get to be successful at that. So I think a combination of factors, having a workload that is much, and then staff shortages, and then resource constraints, and then you have systemic issues, and then the work environment also. That all these factors come into play, and we look at the product that we have now, which is all of us here being able to notice and realize that, we are victims of the same thing we're talking about. You find yourself, working more, sleeping less, being to work more, because in our mind, we usually tell ourselves to feel comfortable that, I need to work hard because, I'll celebrate later. But it's because we have been, that has been engraved in our brains now. And it's like part of us, our system, that we need to keep working and doing different side hustles to be able to deliver an outcome, which is very, very complicated to achieve.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Afolayo, what infrastructure and policy challenges continue to limit access in terms of remote jobs now, and not even side gigs? Because some youths are more comfortable working remote, and some don't even have any options than to work remote because it saves them a lot of money and time. But unfortunately, there are some infrastructure and policies that are not in place yet. So what are those?
Okay. Talking about the challenges, right? Okay. Most of the times, currently Nigeria has the load of opportunities when it comes to remote job. Okay. So when it comes to remote work, sorry about that.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So when it comes to remote job, Africa has a reasonable number of remote workers, people that work from home. But there are certain challenges that we face, like talking about network, poor network accessibility for people in the rural areas. And we talk about power supply outages. Yes, it just happened now. So I had to switch to solar. At times when you're doing a work that needed a stable power supply, and there are power outages, it actually affects remote job workers. Then we have a digital skill gap. Oftentimes, youths, let's say African youths, has the digital skill gap, like not having enough knowledge to fix all these digital remote works. Then I think those are the major points when it comes to the challenges faced for remote workers here in Africa.
All right, thanks for that. Let me come to Emmanuel now. Emmanuel, how do you think that freelancers can protect themselves from instability and exploitation? Because in all of this, we've talked about those who have jobs, like that they work and get paid at the end of the month, but we haven't exactly talked about freelancers. So how can freelancers protect themselves from instability and from exploitation?
Well, thank you very much. That is why it is called freelancer. So one of those things they need to do is, number one, how do you package your business? Now, it's a one-man business. Now I don't get it. It's a self-employed job. How are you packaging your business? Are you, for example, now, if you are into tailoring. How are you doing it? What are those things you are bringing to? What are those new things? Or is it that someone is selling perfume, someone is selling clothes? Me too, I want to do that. The first thing we need to talk about is what is that thing that lured you or that took you into that business? If it's something you have interest, then number one, you have to package it. Number two, now we're in a digital world whereby everything can be done on social media. How can you post everything you are doing on social media? At least, for example, now, someone that is designed, we have people, graphic designers out there, people designing for governors, designing for senators. For example, now, a friend of mine is one designing for the Ogun State governor. He's also the one designing for different kind of politicians. That is a freelancer. His job is just to sleep and wake up. Then whenever he has job, he's going to put on the generator if there's no light, and he's going to part and he's going to start work. That's a freelance job. Number one, freelance job is going to give you, there's not going to be much pressure. And at the end of the month, you'll be getting something at the end of it. But for example now, for you that are into your own personal business, you'll be getting your money steady. And with that, like I said earlier, make everything appropriate. Do something nice that people is going to patronize you, unlike those going to job. For example, some people, for example, if you're a banker now, no doubt about it, you have to get to your place of work by 8 a.m. But it is your own business. You can get to your job, your office, anytime you like, or unless if you have probably an emergency that's just need you. So for every freelancers, what they just need to do is they should keep pushing, keep ensuring that they give the best out of what they do, and they give the best to people. Like we've been saying, people like Mike Adenuga, people like Dangote, people like Kole Shoname of Famous Stars, they didn't just start one day and everything just booked. It is a gradual process. And if you're a freelancer, you are looking at it that, oh, when am I going to have money? When is my business or what I'm doing, when it's going to boom? It's just take the process. We should just trust the process that at the end of it, everything will be better and the business is going to work well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mark, is your turn now. What role should financial education play in career decision, especially this year?
Yeah, financial literacy is very important, and the reason why I remember we were having a conversation at the office the other day, and we were trying to keep tabs on having an agenda that, well, at the start of the year you're supposed to be able to track what you're spending versus what you're bringing in, and one of the guys was joking, saying that at the end of the day, you're operating in a deficit budget because what you're earning versus what you're supposed to be spending is not actually balancing at all. And you find yourself having to do all these other jobs, all these other side hustles to be able to make a living. And it's financial literacy is something that is important, that we all, especially if you are going to start a side hustle, that we all should be able to go and be educated in the various resources that can be able to help you on the internet. But it's very, very crucial. Before you start any side hustle, you should be able to be financially literate, because now you're operating a business. You're no longer waiting for someone to pay you a salary at the end of the month. Even if they are paying you a salary at the end of the month, on this other end, you're running a business. So you're supposed to be able to be financially literate, to be able to know what you're spending, what is going out, how are you able to keep the business afloat, what is required, how much is required, how much are you spending, and how much are you able to save at the end of the day. So financial literacy, especially for the young people, we all should be, it's something that I feel like when we are studying, it's something that they should be able to teach us, or should be able to expose us to be able to be knowledgeable about this, because we are starting all these side hustles, but you don't even know that before you start a side hustle, if you're starting to operate as, for example, when the previous speaker was speaking about being a freelancer, you're supposed to be able to register a business. You're supposed to be able to have the documents required when you're going to work with certain companies. They require that, and certain organizations will require you to be able to have the proper documentation to work with you. And then you find on the other end, someone is bidding, trying to apply for a contract to be able to freelance and work, but they are not able to get it because they don't know that for you to be able to freelance and work with an organization, you should be able to have registered your business, which is a side hustle, to be able to access the ability to be able to work with that organization. It's not like the usual side hustles that we have. I get a friend of mine on the panel that says, hey, design for me a logo. And I go and design it and then send it to him, and he wires me the money, whether through mobile money or any other form of payment that he sends to me. Organizations don't operate like that, or government agencies don't operate like that. If they are working with you, you have to be able to, process, work, write an invoice, have an LPO, all these other requirements that are able to process the transaction for you. So financial literacy is very important, and it's something that people should be exposed to even before they start their side hustles to be able to be successful in that. And me speaking also, I learned that after I had already started working with people, because you get to an organization and you get to work and you're like, oh, I needed to have registered that. You need the TIN number for my business to be able to send me the money. And I don't have that. So I have to, I had to learn the hard way and figure out how to operate that on the front. But if I had understood that earlier, I wouldn't have any barriers at that point. So financial literacy is not just managing your money, but it's also being able to help you make money even when you start a side hustle. You still need to have the knowledge of how you can be able to make money and be in position to make money.
All right, thank you so much. One final question, and that would be to Apolanyo. And very quickly, please, because of our time. But how do you balance, or let's put it this way: how do balance, rest, and community factor into sustainable success?
Okay, right. Thank you. So balance, I think, is to shift our focus. Yeah, shifting our focus in the sense that, just like when we started, we were talking about all these stress over working oneself, because one has actually set a goal that is extremely on the higher side, considering time factors put in charge. Now, if an entrepreneur, or let's say anyone, a youth, a person is setting a goal, I thought the goal should be realistic and should be time-bound, like in a reasonable manner. Now, the major thing that is quite important in doing that is trying to striking a balance between work and, personal life. Like I've said, I was raising a point earlier on. I said we should be to separate the work hour from our personal time. Like, okay, if you've been to work, you've dedicated, this certain period of time for your work, and you should have your own personal time where you're able to ruminate on certain things that you need to do, decision you need to make, your financial plan, you learn, and, you must be able to analyze what you'll be able to accompany and those things that are left to be done. Then you're able to, set the frame time for each individual of your goals so as to achieve them. Then we'll talk about our community. This business of the thing and making it in life is not a factor of all about being ourselves alone. We should look into the community and see how we can impact people. Yes, talking about knowledge, talking about financial assistance. A lot of people have idea in the community, but because of stress and not knowing the technical know-how to go about it. So, but we as youth, if we could help ourselves in guidance, proper guidance. Now, probably we have mentors, we have coach that guide us in our plan. That would should to be helpful indeed. Then another thing that quite most important is our mental well-being. Yeah, whenever we are on the lookout to achieving our goal, especially in the year 2026, I know a lot of us have set goals that are very high. I'm a goal setter as well. I love setting goals. At times when I put in to work my goals and another person has access to it, so like, you want to kill yourself, and only norms, the person actually right, but people that are enthusiastic, you set some stuff and you just have to be calm. You have to think through and know that achieving a great goal takes time, and we should put in the work and stay committed to it, and we'll definitely achieve it. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, I think this is the perfect way to draw the curtain on this conversation today. We want to say a big thank you. Afolayo Nehemiah Oluwatobi, Chief Technology Officer, Minute Global Technologies Limited, joining us from Oyo State, Nigeria. Also, Emmanuel Afolabi, journalist and political analyst, joining us from Ogun State. And Mpiriwe Mark, media personality, joining all the way from Kampala, Uganda. You all have done justice to this conversation, and we're hoping that it is a continuous one, that the youth will see the need to prioritize this conversation and the need for balance as well. Well, that will be all on today's episode. Thank you so much for staying with us. You can catch all past episodes on our YouTube channel at News Central Television. And this has been Fafanua Afrika. I'm Blessings Mosugu, and I'm ushering you into the new year. 2026 is about to be a beautiful year for the youth across Nigeria, across Africa at large. See you next Friday.